The golden numbers shine. The years have passed, life's mellowed to the acme of its time.
Buddy Hackett was the ultimate comedy wild card. A round-faced, fast-talking ball of energy who became famous for his funny facial expressions and hilarious, edgy stand-up routines. He was a regular on late-night television, cracking up audiences more than 90 times on The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson. On camera, Buddy and Johnny looked like the best of friends, trading easy jokes and quick punchlines. But behind the curtain, their relationship was a completely different story. While the public saw two comedy legends getting along perfectly, there was one thing people never knew about them. Before his death, Buddy Hackett finally came forward to reveal what many had already suspected about the king of late night. So, what did he actually say about the man behind the famous curtain? Join us as we look into the secret story of Buddy Hackett and Johnny Carson. From Borough Park to the big screen, the hard-working Brooklyn origins of Leonard Hacker. Before he was the legendary Buddy Hackett, he was just Leonard Hacker, a kid from a hard-working Jewish family in Brooklyn. Growing up in Borough Park, his mom worked in the garment trades while his dad upholstered furniture and messed around with inventions. But life handed young Leonard a major curveball early on when he developed Bell's palsy. The condition left him with a lingering facial droop and a slurred way of speaking. But instead of letting it hold him back, he eventually turned those unique traits into his comedic trademark. Even while balancing varsity football and drama club at New Utrecht High School, Leonard knew how to command a room. He took his energy to the famous Borscht Belt resorts in the Catskill Mountains, working as a tumbler, a Yiddish word for a high-energy entertainer hired to keep guests laughing. It was during these summers that he officially stepped onto the nightclub stages under the name Butch Hacker. His very first gig at the Golden Hotel was an absolute disaster, and he later joked that he didn't get a single laugh. But failure didn't stop him. It only toughened him up. Right after graduating high school in 1942, life took a serious turn when he enlisted in the United States Army. He spent 3 years serving during World War II in an anti-aircraft battery, trading the comedy stages for the front lines. Little did anyone know, this gritty kid from Brooklyn with the funny face and the military background was just getting started on his path to Hollywood stardom. The Pink Elephant Fresh Start, the night Leonard Hacker became Buddy Hackett. After returning home from the war, Leonard decided it was time for a fresh start, so he took a job at a Brooklyn club called the Pink Elephant. It was right there, under the dim club lights, that he officially ditched his birth name and became the Buddy Hackett we all know and love. This name change sparked a whole new wave of energy, taking him out of Brooklyn and landing him gigs in Los Angeles, Las Vegas, and right back to his old stomping grounds in the Catskills. He even took a bite out of Broadway, starring in a play called Lunatics and Lovers. This performance caught the eye of a top TV producer named Max Liebman, who instantly saw Buddy's star power and booked him for 2 major television specials. With TV networks starting to notice his unique charm, Hollywood naturally came knocking next. In 1950, Buddy made his very first movie appearance in a short 10-minute sports film for Columbia Pictures called King of the Pins. The concept was simple. A real-life bowling champion showed the audience the right way to bowl, while Buddy used hilarious silent acting to show everyone the absolute wrong way to do it. Buddy was so funny in this short film that it allegedly caught the attention of Jules White, the head of Columbia's comedy department. In 1952, Jules made Buddy an offer that sounds completely wild today. He asked him to join the iconic comedy group, the Three Stooges. To understand how huge this was, you have to look at what was happening with the Stooges at the time. The beloved Curly Howard had suffered a terrible stroke a few years earlier, and his brother Shemp had stepped in just to fill the gap. Sadly, Curly passed away in January of 1952, leaving a permanent opening in the trio. According to the story, Buddy actually sat down with Mo Howard and Larry Fine for a rehearsal to see if the chemistry was there. Ultimately, Buddy turned down the legendary gig because he felt his personal style just didn't fit their heavy slapstick comedy, choosing instead to bet on himself as a solo act. While some Hollywood historians later claimed this meeting never happened, Buddy later looked Johnny Carson dead in the eye on late-night TV and confirmed that the offer was absolutely real. Turning down the Stooges didn't slow him down at all, but Buddy did take a little break from the big screen to perfect his craft on the comedy club circuit. He finally returned to the movies in 1953 after one of his live nightclub routines became an absolute sensation. In this act, Buddy would wrap a rubber band around his head to slant his eyes and perform a bit called the Chinese Waiter, which poked fun at the chaotic language barriers in a busy restaurant. The routine was a massive hit with live crowds, leading Buddy to record it as a comedy album and eventually perform it in the big-budget movie musical Walking My Baby Back Home. He was a hit, earning a spot on the movie poster right under the main stars, Donald O'Connor and Janet Leigh. Just a year later, Hollywood called on Buddy again, but this time it was for a major emergency. The famous comedy duo Abbott and Costello were supposed to film a big movie called Fireman, Save My Child. They had already filmed several action scenes using stunt doubles when Lou Costello suddenly fell incredibly ill and had to drop out. Desperate to save the movie, the studio realized Buddy had a very similar build to Lou, so they hired him and actor Hugh O'Brien to completely take over the lead roles. By the time the late 1950s and 1960s rolled around, Buddy's face was beaming into living rooms across America on a regular basis. He became a household name by appearing on the era's biggest variety talk shows, hosted by television giants like Jack Paar and Arthur Godfrey. Audiences fell in love with Buddy because he was totally unfiltered, often telling edgy, bold jokes while making wild faces directly into the camera lens. He became a favorite of Jack Paar's version of The Tonight Show, and his appearances were so popular that Paar even invited Buddy to be a special guest on his historic final broadcast in 1962. As the decades rolled on, television networks just couldn't get enough of him. Buddy was everywhere, appearing as a celebrity panelist on the hit game show What's My Line, and even stepping in to host the show Treasure Hunt. He was such a reliable entertainer that he made 15 different appearances on The Perry Como Show over a 6-year span. During this incredibly busy time, Buddy was actually roommates with another legendary, edgy comedian named Lenny Bruce. The two friends teamed up for a comedy bit on The Patrice Munsell Show, where they jokingly called their duo the Not Ready for Primetime Players. In a crazy twist of Hollywood history, this was a full 20 years before the original cast of Saturday Night Live used that exact same name to describe themselves. But even as he built a reputation for edgy late-night laughs, Buddy was hungry to prove he could do more than just stand-up comedy. This ambition pushed him to step out of the comedy clubs and jump headfirst into a wildly diverse mix of acting roles. From westerns to Broadway, tracking Buddy's mid-career leap into The Rifleman and I Had a Ball. Buddy's massive popularity eventually landed him his very own television sitcom in 1956 called Stanley. The show was a big deal, airing live from New York City before a studio audience every single Monday night. Buddy played Stanley, a sweet guy running a busy newsstand inside a luxury New York hotel. The show didn't last very long, but it featured a young, undiscovered actress named Carol Burnett, as well as the distinct voice of Paul Lynde. Even when the sitcom ended, Buddy kept moving, showing off his acting range by appearing in Western dramas like The Rifleman and returning to the Broadway stage in the 1964 musical I Had a Ball. By the 1970s, Buddy was a seasoned veteran of showbiz who loved to surprise his fans. He showed a completely different side of his brain by publishing a book of serious poetry called The Naked Mind of Buddy Hackett. He also kept up his legendary status on late-night TV, consistently cracking up Johnny Carson all the way until Carson retired in 1992. Buddy even got to honor his comedy roots by playing his old idol, Lou Costello, in a dramatic television movie called Bud and Lou. He also lent his iconic, raspy voice to the classic Rankin-Bass holiday special Jack Frost in 1979. Interestingly, after a quick cameo in the 1963 classic It's a Mad, 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 Mad World, Buddy's career in mainstream Hollywood movies started to cool off. But, in a hilarious twist for a comedian known for his adult-themed comedy stand-up routines, Buddy found his biggest Hollywood success in children's movies. Kids everywhere fell in love with him in Disney's The Love Bug and The Wonderful World of the Brothers Grimm. His unique, cartoonish voice was perfect for animation, leading to his iconic role as Scuttle the Seagull in Disney's 1989 smash hit The Little Mermaid, a role he proudly returned to for the sequel in the year 2000. Despite all the success, the mid-1980s brought a dark cloud when Buddy suffered from a severe, long-term case of stage fright that forced him to pull back from the spotlight. Thankfully, he snapped out of it by the late 1990s and made a triumphant return to television. He starred in a Hollywood satire sitcom called Action in 1999, and even tricked the world in 1998 by guest starring on the comedy show Late Line. In that hilarious episode, the news mistakenly reports that Buddy had died, prompting real-life politicians to sing along to Buddy's famous song, Ship Hoopy. In his final years, Buddy found a perfect home on The Late Late Show with Craig Kilborn, with a weekly segment called Tuesdays with Buddy. It was the perfect playground for him, allowing him to sit back, smile, and share incredible stories from his 50-year career with a brand new generation of fans. To honor everything he gave to the world of entertainment, Buddy was awarded a well-deserved star on the world-famous Hollywood Walk of Fame, ensuring that the kid from Brooklyn with the funny face and the massive heart would never be forgotten. A Heart of Gold for Strays: How Buddy and Sherry Built a Cat Rescue Empire in L.A. While Buddy was busy conquering the entertainment world, his personal life was just as colorful and full of surprises. On June 12, 1955, he married the love of his life, Sherry Cohen, a talented Brooklyn dance teacher who went by the stage name Sherry Dubois. The two had originally crossed paths back in the Catskills, and they eventually went on to have 3 children together, building a beautiful life in Malibu, California. But in August of 1958, the couple made a totally unexpected move by purchasing a massive house in Fort Lee, New Jersey. The wild part? The home had previously belonged to the notorious deceased mob boss, Albert Anastasia. After doing some serious renovations to wash away the home's spooky history, Buddy and Sherry moved in and called it home through most of the swinging 1960s. Behind closed doors, Buddy had some pretty intense hobbies that most fans never knew about. He was an avid firearms collector and accumulated a massive collection of guns over his lifetime, though he did end up selling them off in his later years. Buddy wasn't just a collector, though. He was a certified crack shot who absolutely loved spending his free time practicing on pistol ranges, alongside his other favorite sports like golfing and skiing. But beneath that tough exterior lay a massive heart of gold. Buddy was deeply involved in charity work, dedicating his time and fame to raising money for the Boys and Girls Clubs of America and fighting diseases with the National Tay-Sachs Foundation. As he and Sherry grew older, they developed a massive passion for animal welfare, leading them to fund a special facility in Los Angeles to rescue stray cats. This love for animals culminated in 2003 when the couple officially established the Singita Animal Sanctuary in California's San Fernando Valley. Buddy's incredible legacy didn't just end with his charity work. It lived on through his family. His son, Sandy, decided to follow in his famous dad's footsteps and jumped right into the comedy world. For years, Sandy had the ultimate honor of opening for his father before Buddy's live performances. After Buddy passed away, Sandy kept his father's bright spirit alive by creating a touching one-man stage show all about his dad, ensuring that the world would never forget the sweet, hilarious, and generous man behind the famous funny face. But while Buddy was beloved by everyone in his personal life, his professional relationships on television required navigating some of the most guarded personalities in showbiz. His legendary status on late-night TV seemed effortless, but behind the scenes, dealing with the industry's biggest host was a high-stakes balancing act. Playing the King's Game: How Buddy Hackett Survived Hollywood's Most Dangerous Couch. Behind the laughter, the cigar smoke, and the booming applause of The Tonight Show studio, the reality of Johnny Carson and Buddy Hackett's dynamic was far more complex than their effortless on-screen chemistry suggested. While they shared a mutual respect for each other's comedic genius, Hackett eventually pulled back the curtain on the king of late night, revealing a man who was profoundly private, emotionally distant, and fiercely protective of his territory. On television, Buddy and Johnny looked like the best of friends, trading easy jokes and quick punchlines. But behind the curtain, their relationship was a completely different story. While the public saw two comedy legends getting along perfectly, there was one thing people never knew about them. Before his death, Buddy Hackett finally came forward to reveal what many had already suspected about the king of late night. What he revealed was that the charming, relaxed host the public saw at 11:30 p.m. was a carefully crafted persona. Off-camera, Carson was notoriously aloof and socially uncomfortable. Hackett revealed that despite his 78 appearances on the couch, you never truly knew Johnny. When the show was over, the wall went right back up, and Carson didn't really have close friends in the industry. He had associates. Carson also possessed a cold, competitive streak. If a comedian went out on that stage and killed too hard or tried to steer the show away from Johnny, they were met with the famous Carson Ice. Hackett managed to survive and thrive on the show because he knew exactly how to play the game, being wildly unpredictable for the ratings while never stepping on Johnny's toes as the master of ceremonies. Buddy Hackett made exactly 78 credited appearances on The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson. This milestone places him in the top 10 most frequent guests in the history of the legendary late-night talk show, tying with the comedy duo Steve Lawrence and Eddie Gourmet. On the panel, Buddy was absolute magic, known for his totally off-the-cuff humor and his unique ability to make Johnny completely lose control. Laughing. He would frequently take over entire segments of the show with his legendary, long-form storytelling, like his famous laugh-out-loud duck joke in 1987 that caused Carson and Ed McMahon to laugh until they were crying. During these dozens of memorable appearances, Hackett frequently complimented the host, often teasing Johnny about his wealth. He joked about Carson's lavish, high-society lifestyle in Malibu, teasing him about his electric gate, the 4 guys out front, and his eccentric sea vacuum. Hackett also used his interview segments to regale Johnny with funny, nostalgic stories about his father, his divorce, and growing up in New York. He even used the platform to defend his own comedy legacy. When telling Carson the story of how he was once approached to replace Curly Howard in The Three Stooges back in 1952, Hackett explained that he ultimately turned the massive offer down because he wanted his own solo career. A historic Hollywood story he proudly confirmed right to Johnny's face. Before his passing in 2003, Hackett didn't look back on Carson with malice, but rather with a sharp, analytical eye. He viewed Carson as a tragic figure in a way, a man who gave everything to his television audience, but had very little warmth left over for the people in his actual life. They were two titans from a golden age of comedy. One who used a rubber face and a loud voice to let everyone in, and another who used a desk and a polite smile to keep the entire world at a distance. But Hackett was far from the only comic to notice the sharp contrast between the television host and the actual man. Behind the curtain, navigating Carson's private world meant dealing with an immense, unpredictable power that could instantly elevate a career or destroy it with a single, icy look. Two worlds, one couch. Balancing the televised charm with the cold reality of Johnny Carson. Behind the legendary laughter and the smooth late-night charm, Johnny Carson held a massive amount of power in Hollywood. If you were on his good side, you were a star. But if you crossed him, you were instantly frozen out. Beneath that friendly television smile, Carson had a notoriously cold, private, and vindictive streak. If he felt even a little bit betrayed, he would completely cut people out of his life without a second thought. The most famous fallout in TV history happened with Joan Rivers. For years, Joan was Johnny's permanent guest host and his favorite comedic partner. But in 1986, Joan accepted an offer to host her own late-night show on the rival Fox network. Carson felt completely blindsided and personally betrayed by the move. He was so deeply hurt that he never spoke to Joan again, banning her from The Tonight Show for the rest of his historic run. Joan wasn't the only superstar to feel Carson's cold shoulder. Viewers in the 1970s and 80s always assumed that comedy icon Bob Hope was one of Johnny's absolute favorites. Hope appeared on the show constantly, walking out to his famous theme song for a quick bit of scripted banter before showing a clip of his next TV special and rushing off. But behind the scenes, Carson absolutely hated this routine. Carson loved honoring classic comics who would sit down and truly talk. But Hope always arrived with pre-written jokes and refused to have a real, natural conversation. Carson deeply resented how Hope would essentially book himself on the show whenever he had something to sell. Because Hope was a massive star, Carson felt like he couldn't say no, which only made him resent the comedy legend even more. When the cameras stopped rolling, Carson could be incredibly difficult to deal with. His former lawyer, Henry Bushkin, described Carson as a lonely, brooding alcoholic whose dark moods absolutely terrified the people around him. He was incredibly easy to offend, quick to sulk, and would fire staff members for the smallest mistakes. This toxic attitude nearly caused Johnny to get into a physical locker room brawl with Las Vegas legend Wayne Newton. For years, Carson cracked mean jokes on television, questioning Newton's masculinity. Fed up with the disrespect, Newton marched right into Carson's Burbank office, looked him in the eye, and told him that the jokes had to stop immediately, or he would kick his butt. Carson stopped the jokes, but the bad blood lasted for a decade. Newton even blamed Carson's influence when a nasty rumor surfaced linking the singer to organized crime. Carson's fierce loyalty to his staff also created major rifts with other legends. He used to admire Jerry Lewis, but after Lewis verbally abused a Tonight Show cue card operator, Carson immediately banned him from ever hosting the show again. Even the legendary Frank Sinatra found himself restricted. Carson grew so frustrated with Sinatra's thuggish off-camera behavior that he limited the iconic singer to just one single appearance a year. At the end of the day, Johnny Carson was a man of two completely different worlds. On television, he was America's favorite neighbor. But behind the curtain, his heavy drinking and volatile temper kept everyone at a distance, proving that the king of late night ruled his kingdom with an absolute fist of ice. But while some comedy legends left behind a legacy of isolation and burnt bridges, others used their final years to pour everything they had back into the next generation. For Buddy Hackett, aging didn't mean pulling away from the world. It meant stepping into the role of a seasoned mentor, passing his lifelong mastery of the stage directly down to his own flesh and blood. The Master's final blueprint: how Buddy spent his last years acting as a comedy guru. As Buddy Hackett grew older, his health started to take a serious turn. In the early 1990s, he was diagnosed with severe heart disease, but he stubbornly refused to ever consider having bypass surgery. Sadly, this heart condition would eventually lead to his death on June 30, 2003, at his beautiful beach house in Malibu, California, at the age of 78. His son, Sandy, later shared that Buddy had also been dealing with diabetes for years and had suffered a stroke just a week before passing away, which also played a heavy part in his sudden death. But Buddy's bright spirit didn't just vanish. It lived on through Sandy, who was inspired at a very young age to jump right into his father's legendary world of comedy. Buddy was a powerful teacher and a wonderful role model, always teaching by example. He spent hours reading, studying, and constantly refining his stage techniques, acting as a true comedy guru to younger comedians and his own son alike. Sandy quickly learned what audiences already knew. An Evening with Buddy Hackett was comedy at its absolute best. This incredible fatherly guidance became the solid foundation for Sandy's own growing career as a performer, writer, and producer. Sandy's very first taste of television happened when he was just 11 years old. He tagged along with his dad for a scheduled appearance on the hit show Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In. While backstage, the show's producers spotted the young boy and put him on camera, marking his official professional television debut. That single moment started it all. Later on, while attending UNLV, Sandy served as the director of entertainment for his last 3 semesters before graduating with a degree in hotel administration. Even with a business degree in hand, Sandy couldn't deny his deep love for the stage, which motivated him to start producing and hosting the Sahara Showcase of Talent on Monday nights at the famous Sahara Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas. The show was an instant success. After a fantastic 4-year run, where Sandy earned praise for his smooth, Johnny Carson-style hosting method, the program was renamed Sandy Hackett's Talent Showcase. It ran for another full decade, consistently entertaining packed audiences. It became so popular that Sandy began producing and hosting the showcase all over Nevada, expanding to the Sahara Reno, Sahara Tahoe, and the iconic Mint and Dunes hotels. Over those years, Sandy personally introduced over 10,000 different acts to the stage, giving early breaks to future entertainment superstars like Andrew Dice Clay, Howie Mandel, and George Wallace. This incredible era only came to an end when the historic hotels he worked at were literally blown up to make room for modern Las Vegas. For the next 40 years, Sandy continued to travel across the country, stopping at various comedy clubs to perfect his craft and entertain the masses. Then came another dream-come-true moment. Buddy came to see one of Sandy's shows and invited his son to officially share the stage with him. Sandy happily accepted, spending the next 10 years traveling and learning from the master himself, serving as Buddy's road manager, stage manager, opening act, and absolute best friend. By 1990, Sandy opened his very own comedy club in Laughlin, Nevada, which thrived throughout the decade. His great networking skills eventually led him to become the entertainment director for Sun City Summerlin, where he successfully booked over 400 shows in just 2 years at the intimate Starbright Theater. Then, a brand new creative spark arrived. When HBO announced it was making a movie about the legendary Rat Pack, a longtime family friend named Joey Bishop called Sandy and told him he would be absolutely perfect to play the role of Joey. Even though the movie part went to someone else, the idea of playing Bishop, a man Sandy grew up around and deeply loved, totally stuck with him. Sandy decided to sit down and write his own stage show honoring Bishop and his famous singing buddies. And just like that, Sandy Hackett's Rat Pack show was born. Today, Sandy's role as the writer, director, and star of Sandy Hackett's Rat Pack show, Shadows in the Desert, has brought him his greatest success yet. He proudly co-produces the massive touring show alongside his beautiful and incredibly talented wife, Lisa Dawn Miller Hackett. Lisa is a brilliant singer, songwriter, and producer in her own right, and she happens to be the daughter of the legendary Motown songwriter Ron Miller. Meanwhile, Buddy's 2 daughters, Ivy and Lisa, have chosen to live quiet lives completely out of the public spotlight. Together, Sandy and Lisa have raised a brand new generation of performers. Their son, Oliver Richmond, is an amazing young singer and actor who has already shared a stage with Stevie Wonder. Their young daughter, Ashley Hackett, is a wonderful actress and comedian who regularly performs right alongside her dad. Sadly, Buddy's loyal wife of 48 years, Sherry, the former Brooklyn dance teacher who helped Buddy fund their cat sanctuary, passed away in recent years. But through Sandy, Lisa, and the grandchildren, the incredible, joyful entertainment legacy of the Hackett family continues to shine brightly for audiences all over the world. Were you a fan of Buddy Hackett and his jokes? Share your thoughts with us in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also, click the next video shown on your screen. You will enjoy it.